Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Whoa, today we're going to have an amazing show. And the reason I know is because I was here when Thomas was watching Andrew McCabe's CBS Confessions the other night. And it was more interesting to listen to Thomas's reply of what Andrew McCabe should be saying. It was great, Thomas, and you're going to carry that forward in the first tweet.
Well, yes. I mean, really, Betsy, what we wanted to do after we watched this was play it again, stop it after every single remark that he makes, and explain that what he just said had 3 or 4 or 5 lies in it. There were so many lies upon lies upon lies that he didn't open his mouth without already having an a priori lie that is part of the premise of what he then said, and then what he would say would have 3 and 4 lies in it. It was just the most amazing display of stupidity. But what it really does for me is it depresses me to think that that is who we have in government work. I guess that's what they say, that when you can't make it anywhere else, you become a bureaucrat in the federal government.
No, but remember now, he is a senior executive service operative, and all of these characters we're seeing, James Comey, even Robert Mueller, they're from the SES. So who knows, maybe they look for a certain type, kind of a beta boy, to do their bidding, and that's what we were seeing there. Well, the first tweet takes us there, but before we do, I want to point out to everybody, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to go inside the narration box to pick up the tweets, and also I've got a really good Ruth Ginsburg meme package for you to send out into your social media. You'll love it. A lot of great memes and a little video. Okay, the first tweet. Remember this? Andrew McCabe didn't go to the bathroom without the approval of leaking James Comey.
That's why we called them bunk buddies. I mean, they were hanging on to each other like a person in a shadow. Except that Andrew McCabe was really not very quick on the uptake. For 10 years, he practiced being corrupt underneath the FBI director, Robert Mueller. He ran all things Uranium One, all things Russian, and he was the Russian spy. If you want to talk about a Russian spy in the investigation, it would be him. If you want to talk about a Iranian spy, it would be Peter Strzok. I mean, they were right there conducting these things. We always called Comey and his group, James Baker and Lisa and Peter and the whole gang, Ribicki and the whole gang, including Andrew McCabe, we called them bunk buddies. Because you got to hear James Comey come back again and again like a real sissy and say, oh, I talked with the president and he hurt my feelings. So I came back and I told it to my whole group. In other words, privileged executive communications between the director of the FBI and the president himself were revealed again and again and again. And of course, we know they were lies and mischaracterizations because everything Comey said was a lie about Trump. And we know that he was conducting multiple investigations and told Trump 3 times that Comey said he wasn't investigating the president at all. And he testified before Congress that he wasn't. But he actually had a counterintelligence investigation going on, an operation. Now, this is one of the huge lies that I was even shocked at this one. When McCabe said that as soon as Comey was fired, as soon as he was appointed, that he immediately opened an investigation into obstruction of justice for Trump firing Comey. Any lawyer would have told him that's not even possible. He was his subordinate. Plus, there never was such an investigation, and to this day there never was such an investigation. There is no investigation. He made that up. I don't know why. I guess because he's just stupid. When I look at him, he looks, and when I listen to him speak, he does not seem intelligent at all. And I think that his lies are just so fantastic that he just keeps getting bigger ones. So then what did he say? Then immediately after that, he talked with Trump, and he was convinced that Trump could be a Russian spy, and probably was. And so he opened a counterintelligence investigation on Trump. What a fantastic lie! The counterintelligence investigation was opened by Brennan, called Crossfire Hurricane, and it was based upon the frame-up of Papadopoulos. There was no second counterintelligence investigation created by Andrew McCabe. He's trying to make himself look good, and still at this moment, still trying to do what the Mueller, what basically Mueller picked up as what McCabe was doing with Strzok and Page and the rest of them, Comey, all of them, which the committee to impeach, the small group, whatever you want to call it, Crossfire Hurricane, it's as if he is still working for them to smear Trump with these absolutely silly, baseless, ridiculous, pathetic lies that even the mainstream media is busting him on. All the alternative media is saying, wait. He just threw Comey under the bus because he just threw Rosenstein under the bus. He just threw Trump under the bus. He's throwing everybody under the bus. And he's, at this moment, as far as we know, still part of a grand jury indictment in a case against him for lack of candor, which is what they call a liar when they are a member of the senior executive service. SES members, when they lie, it's called lack of candor. When anyone else lies, it's called you're Paul Manafort or Roger Stone, you're going to jail. So really, it was pathetic. What it was him getting out in front of his book as his alibi. Just as Donna Brazile wrote her alibi, found nobody's going to do anything, went right back to work. Isn't it amazing? Comey gets fired, writes his alibi, probably gets immunity from Mueller, is all over the news, writes his alibi, it's all lies, and basically just goes on as if nothing happened. Here is Andrew McCabe trying to be like his boss. He said that everyone in the FBI loved Comey. No, they didn't. They hated Comey. Comey was an idiot. He was an embarrassment. Everybody knows that. Nobody in the FBI loved Comey. Comey is a joke. They laughed at him for what he did with the email exoneration letter because it took, 10 other people coming in and taking out the loaded words so that Hillary wouldn't go down in his exoneration of her, even though she was not even a person of interest for the midterm exam. She was not questioned, and basically the evidence that she had in her possession was supposedly destroyed by the FBI. Comey was a joke. Everything he did was a joke. He was totally pathetic. We might as well just get a big L and put it on Andrew McCabe's head for liar, because he, just like Michael Cohen, are trying to be the biggest liars in Washington, D.C.
Well, going into the next tweet, before I read it, it's important that we help folks out there change the narrative, because if we can change the narrative with it doesn't take a lot of people. It's just who you're influencing out there. You're doing such a great job. We need to change the focus. It's no longer, we don't want to call it a soft coup or an overthrow of Trump or the Crossfire Hurricane. It's had a lot of names, but we need to name it what it is, and we need to all be shouting it at the rooftops, and that is high treason. These people have committed treason against the United States. So if James Comey thinks he's going to do his book tour and then go off to retirement, he's got another thing coming. Because those of us out here in independent media, patriots around the country, they're calling it out as high treason, and we're not going to be satisfied until we see all of these people in prison.
We might have to have citizen tribunals where we actually try them, convict them, recommend their sentence, and then basically lay that before our corrupt government, our corrupt federal government, our corrupt fake justice system, and basically take action ourselves if that's what it takes. Because at this point, folks, we are under assault like nothing we've ever seen before. Here's Andrew McCabe, who's probably going to walk. He's probably going to walk without anything but a slap on the hand. He's probably going to get his SES retirement, and he is going to slander the president, and nothing will probably happen at all. Or else he wouldn't be out there with the book if he didn't already have a deal arranged before he even went into that grand jury indictment, grand jury impanelment and supposed investigation of him. For instance, there were already 4 investigations of him going on, right? We could go into that, but I've said it so many times. That, actually, I will go into it with the last tweet, but the point is, he was under investigation. Why isn't he now? Now everything gets swept under the rug with the accusation of lack of candor. That's pathetic.
But what I would recommend for some of for the people that have been with us for a while, there are 2 amazing websites, as you know. There's ours, aimfortruth.org, and there's also the Americans for Innovation website. Now, these 2 websites together have the dirt on it all. At Americans for Innovation, you can get right down to the weeds of the indictable evidence. And if you go to the American Intelligence Media, you get the big overview of what's going on. I'm going to put those links in the narration, and I suggest that you send a copy of that to William Barr. Let him know what you know, and let him know what the citizens know, and tell him his job now is to move beyond that point. We don't want any more of this starting from scratch again. The citizens of this country have done our homework, so place this in William Barr's email box, and I'll make sure to have all that information below.
One other thing, Betsy, and that's that I want to thank Mr. Trump for making some selections he's put on his Twitter feed. I want to thank him for that beautiful, beautiful piece during which used the words of his own State of the Union address, and then the sad faces of the Democrats and some of the Republicans. Oh, yeah, using the REM song, and then he replaced it with that beautiful song, much better than the REM song. And then I want to thank him for the big cats, the cougar and the leopard that were loving on each other. And I want to thank him for showing us the talent that is unrecognized by women who are doing what they do best. And in this particular case, it was a woman who was basically a soccer kind of star. And so we want to thank you, Mr. President, because not only are you providing wisdom and providing a chance for us to decode the wisdom which is written in between the lines of your tweets, but you're also providing entertainment, and you're providing thanks to those people who are supporting you.
The next tweet reads, "The witch hunt in time likely will become recognized as the greatest scandal in American political history, marking the first occasion in which the U.S. government bureaucrats sought to overturn an election, presidential." That came from a quote from Victor Davis Hanson. And again, I say, let's change the narrative, folks. Let's start calling it what it is. This, my friends, was high treason.
Yeah, because I say to Victor, duh, I like what's tacked on at the end of this, and got caught.
Yes.
2 years late, Victor. It's as Betsy said, it's high treason, it's sedition, it's a coup d'etat. They had 13 names for it. These people have come out. We have their words. We have the evidence. And we also have the intransigence of the bureaucratic status quo of Washington, D.C. not to convict their own, which is really too bad. But I have to say to this person, welcome to the war. You're not yet in the battle, and you're certainly not in the front lines. Victor, you need to get with it.
Well, that's really all you can expect from fake Fox News. They'll give you a little, but they don't know how to go all the way because they don't have the amazing research team that we have here at the American Intelligence Media. The next tweet reads, had the opposition party, no, not the media, won the election, the stock market would be down at least 10,000 points by now. We are heading up, up, up.
So glad he brought this up, as he often does. It gives us the chance to read between the lines. First off, LOL on that, the mainstream media and opposition party, because they are, and oh my goodness, we need to drive that home so very clearly, that they are working 100% of their time against a duly elected president.
Well, did you see the most recent one was TMZ that posted a video of Ruth Bader Ginsburg walking through an airport. Now, this was taken a year ago, but they're posting it now saying it's a sighting that they had yesterday, Monday, February 18th, 2019. Are you kidding me? But they knew that they couldn't run that fake news on NBC or CNN. It was just too egregious. So they run it through TMZ. Then they expect all of us to grab it as the real thing, run with it, and for folks to think that she's alive. Folks, we have not seen proof of life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg since September 2018, when she was at George Washington University, barely able to sit in a chair and could hardly answer questions. Now, where the hell is Ruth?
Well, I know one thing, and that's that they're getting her doubles and her lookalikes already, because they will not give up that position until a Democrat has been put into the White House, because they know that once they do,
it's game over.
Game over for them, because they can't impeach Trump, and that's their whole dream. Everything is based upon that globalism, or as Henry Kissinger likes to call it, the financial world order, is on its last leg, and we're going to just see it topple here, and it's just a beautiful thing.
The next tweet reads...
Oh, wait. I didn't get to give my commentary on this.
Well, then go for it.
Because I got triggered when I saw this, because here is what would have happened. And we know this would have happened because it was in the plan of the intelligence community. What would have happened is that Hillary would have come to power. There would have been a complete crash of the stock market. We know that would be true because the people who own and run the stock market, said they were going to sell it the next year because it wasn't profitable to them any longer. Imagine that. Imagine that it would have crashed, but then who would have been the winners? The winners would have been the U.S. Federal Reserve and the central banks that are holding 1/3 of their assets in the stock market. Stock market would have gone down, everyone would have lost everything, they would have bought it all up, and then they would have owned it.
And the southern border would have been wide open, and all of these invaders would have come into America. It was going to be a total takedown of America.
A total invasion of
Top
America.
down, bottom up. That's what old Van Jones always used to preach.
And the Canadians and the Mexicans are ticked off that they didn't get to keep vampirizing us because they were told that this was going to go on and it was going to get better, and that the Mexico, America, and Canada were to become one. And also the derivative bubble would have burst, which would have collapsed all of the world's currencies as well as all the world's stock markets. Now, guess what, folks? The world stock markets have crashed. Anybody reporting that? Except for Trump. China's 40% down. Their stock market's a joke. No one will invest there now because they found out that there's clauses that state that the totalitarian communist Central Committee has the right to do anything they want with any company in China or any company that does business with a Chinese company. And we're finding that out with the FTE, fraud, IP theft. We're finding it out with Lenovo, and that they all had to be sent back to China and new microchips put in that weren't spying on us. So, folks, it would have crashed. The whole world right now, look around. The stock markets are down historically. We are up historically. It's going to be the opposite. Instead of the Fed taking over through the central banks, we're going to collapse our debt to the Fed because it's odious debt, and the central banks are going to be left holding the stock that they can't sell. So don't worry, it's all going to turn around, and Trump knows this absolutely.
Are you giving us a dope of hopium? How do you feel so certain about that, Thomas?
Because it's written in what we see as the evidence. And the evidence is written on the face of those who are afraid, who have come out, including George Soros, including everyone, Bilderbergers, Trilaterals, it doesn't matter, CFR, all of them, generals who get fired by Trump, all the unsatisfied globalists have all come out and bemoaned these horrible things. In other words, they've come out and they've revealed in their last gasping, dying breath the reality. That's why we have offshore accounts being opened up in Utah and Nevada and Montana. That's why you actually have Rothschild money coming from British offshore accounts into American offshore accounts in America. They're so foolish. They have no idea that Trump is going to seize that money. But the point is, Trump had all this planned out from the beginning. He's not a stock market guy. He's making a joke every time he says, look, the stock market is up, and the rest of the world's stock markets are down, and they are basically sucking wind. Why is he doing this? It's part of the plan. He read the paradox, the intelligence report, the paradox of progress. He read exactly what they were planning. He knows, and he's counteracting it.
All right, the next two tweets are related. I'll read them together. As I predicted, 16 cities, led mostly by open border Democrats and the radical left, have filed a lawsuit in, of course, the Ninth Circuit. California, the state that has wasted billions of dollars on their out-of-control fast train with no hope of completion, seems in charge. And then the next one, the failed fast train project in California, where the cost overruns are becoming world record setting, is 100 times more expensive than the desperately needed wall.
This is quite loaded, of course. Let's just look at the fact that the Ninth Circuit is too big. It's corrupt. The people who've been placed on it are basically living in the environment of the left, anarchist, fascist, Marxist California attitude. And that's what we can expect from the Ninth Circuit. Let's remember that Obama ignored federal court rulings. Trump doesn't have to obey. The Ninth Circuit can do whatever it wants. It doesn't mean that Trump has to obey. They can put an injunction on him. Guess what? That's an illegal injunction. Someone else then in another court, as has already happened since Trump's administration, bring a case against a federal court for their ruling because it was against the Constitution. Now, why doesn't a John Roberts, or why doesn't the fake justice system correct this? Because this is the standard politics of the uniparty. And we have to realize that when you're talking about the anarchist party, the demon rat party, the Democrat Party, its home is in California and New York City. And how do we know that? Because that's where they murder babies. That's where they basically conduct so much illegal activity, it's ridiculous. So let's just think about this for a second. The 16 cities led by California, why would any city not want a wall stopping the drug cartels from killing people, from stealing their children, from human trafficking, from drug trafficking, you name it? Why wouldn't any want that? Only one reason. Because they are a Maxine Waters, they are a Dianne Feinstein, they are a Kamala Harris, whose new name is Crafty Beaver. And what do? Just like Nancy Pelosi and just like the new governor, her nephew, Gavin Newsom, what do? They do whatever they want. They have to keep the chaos going because they have made deals with those criminals. There could be no other explanation for it. Why would you want a sanctuary state with sanctuary cities except for drug trafficking? And if you were a politician, why would you want that? Only because you're already paid off. So go back and look at the visits of Nancy Pelosi and what's that guy's name? Beto O'Rourke. He was with her. Beto O'Rourke.
And it doesn't matter because he's a big fat nothing burger. I mean, he'll fade away. The Democrats are running all kinds of people for the president. It wouldn't surprise me if Andrew McCabe doesn't file. He will
get his SES retirement. It's a fact.
I'm telling you.
And he'll probably get another job working in the Department of Justice right after this, okay? Let's remember, they only fired Peter Strzok from the FBI Counterintelligence Division.
He's just over there at the CIA.
He was fired from the Special Counsels, fired from the DOJ, working with the National Security Division, fired from the FBI Counterintelligence, but still works for the CIA. Isn't that amazing? As a region director. Wait a second. I'm not even near done on this one. These same people who've taken it to the Ninth Circuit, and especially the California ones, tough luck. He's still building the wall. He's building it now, and your court case is not going to slow him down. And just like Obama, he can ignore that court case. He can ignore that ruling and let another court overrule it. Now, unfortunately, Gavin Newsom, in his first act, which was to give away tens of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for their medical costs and inviting them in and taking the National Guard off the border and saying he doesn't want a border, basically the high-speed rail, the fast train, that's a scam. That's a standard California scam. They go to do something to correct a huge problem. Can't be done. It's too big. State's too big. But all the people involved, that would be Feinstein, that would be Nancy Pelosi, that would be Gavin Newsom, who probably had his investments before he became the governor, of how he was going to make money off of stealing the land for this fast train, which we've already seen the pictures of that, where you overlay the holdings of Dianne Feinstein's husband, and you'll see that it's right along the southern end of that track. Now, the crafty beaver, Kamala Harris, she is absolutely complicit in all of this, okay? So, when we're talking about California, we are talking about, that's right, an enemy of the Republic.
Now, let's back up. We've nicknamed it Kamala Crafty Beaver Harris. We'd love for you guys to pick up that moniker, Crafty Beaver. This, of course, is the place where the noose was purchased for the Jussie's fake lynching scene. And we are beginning to tie Kamala Harris to that. She had that lynching bill with Cory Booker back in December 2018. So all of us out here were beginning to smell something up. So in the meantime, she's Kamala Crafty Beaver Harris.
Yeah, and we know that beaver is a very busy beaver.
A very busy beaver to get where she is.
Isn't that right, Willie?
Are we ready to go to the next tweet?
No, I got to say some more nasty stuff about Pelosi. Pelosi added to the U.S. aid $17 billion. Guess where that money went? Walls for Pakistan, security walls. Security walls for Jordan, security walls for Israel, security walls for Egypt, and security walls for a number of other enemies of the United States of America. We took the $6 billion, tripled it, and gave it to our enemies. Does anybody there seem like a real friend of America besides Israel? And why are we giving them any more money to build another wall just to protect Genie oil? Forget that. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about California conducts continuous fraud through FEMA and through emergencies. Like right now, they're getting ready. They're making their excuses for a dam that's going to break because there's a huge storm coming. No, they simply didn't repair the dam, just like the previous one. Just like they don't clear their forests, just like they build where there can be mudslides, just like they build where there aren't flood control, just like they take the water that should be used for people, put it in the ocean, and then they take the other water, and they have green grass. They grow rye bluegrass on their lawns throughout all of California, wasting the water on the appearance of their lawn instead of food, folks. And then what happens? Fantastic droughts after that. And all it is mismanagement. California is the worst mismanaged state in America. And maybe when you look at it, it's right up there with third world countries, because the voting is completely fraudulent. 3.5 to 5 million illegal aliens voted in the 2016 presidential election. Many of them were from California. I don't accept any votes from California now until they can create a system that is not fraudulent.
Their representatives and their senators from California should not be seated in Congress unless we can prove that their elections are not rigged. And that would mean that a lot of our problems would go away. Corrupt Dianne Feinstein all the way down to Adam Schiff's territory, and we'll take out Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi. Now, good Devin Nunes, hang in there for the good fight. But these people, they win because of rigged elections, and then they go to Congress. We have to stop that.
Well, Nunes is up in Tulare, a beautiful, beautiful place where it isn't filled with a bunch of crazies. And I want to quote again, I am being mean to California, but hey, California is mean to California. They did a poll, 53% of Californians want to leave the state right now. And the reasons they state is because of crazy Democrats. Now, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. The Washington Post is a fact checker only for the Democrats. For the Republicans and for your all-time favorite president, it is a fake fact checker.
If anyone buys the Washington Post or in any way donates to them or in any way spends a dime on it, you're stupid. They have been caught in more fake news than anyone but CNN. And it's owned, of course, by someone who opposes the president. It is nothing more than an opposition research company pumping out propaganda lies. And it is the home of the rogue CIA in America right now. That is where the rogue CIA propaganda is generated. That is why, holy Lord, the Adam Khashoggi, who used to be the head of the the Saudi Arabian Secret Service, his nephew, Jamal Khashoggi, basically ran their propaganda ministry at the same time. And he came to work for Washington Post. And we're sad that he got killed and chopped up. This man was responsible for the deaths of more people than I can count. And listen, Washington Post allowed unfit Mitt to write the most embarrassing thing he's ever written in his life, trying to slam Trump as the very first thing he did before he was even sworn in as a senator.
Well, see, that is what the point I want to rise with this tweet. It's really not a fact checker for Democrats. It's for the globalists. The Washington Post is there to push the globalist message. And that's why you find Mitt Romney going and offering this opinion piece and the Washington Post taking it, because Mitt Romney is a globalist. Now, then on the other hand, you have your president, and we are the MAGA team. You got two teams here all around the world. You have the globalists versus the national patriots. In America, we're called MAGA. In France, maybe they're the yellow jackets or the yellow vests. But all around the world, we see what the battle is of, and we see who the teams are. The teams, so to speak. You know what I'm talking about? The sides of the war.
Absolutely. And the squelching of free speech through the Washington Post and through these fact checkers that are supported by money coming from the Atlantic Council, George Soros, Eric Schmidt. Folks, we are watching free speech be annihilated in America. The Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN. Remember, when they give you the statistics of who reads them, they created those statistics. Don't believe it for 1 minute. Rachel Madcow does not have that type of following. No, she does not.
That's why, Netflix always talks about how many millions and millions of new subscribers they get and all the... No, they don't. They're only telling you that so you'll go and watch Netflix. Netflix is definitely opposition. It is a limited hangout. It's controlled opposition. It's run by all the corrupt people we named, the Obamas, Susan Rice. Just don't even bother with Netflix.
Since those people came to Netflix in their programming, started manipulating and turning totally to the left, completely into fascism, what happened? Their counts went down fantastically. What do they say happened? They just put an article out saying that they have won the battle against cable.
Yeah, really.
That's such a lie.
Netflix is a big nothing burger too, but they're just not going to let you know that because then you won't watch it. The last tweet today is, I never said anything bad about Andrew McCabe's wife other than they should not have taken large amounts of campaign money from a crooked Hillary source when Clinton was under investigation by the FBI. I never called his wife a loser to him. Another McCabe made-up lie. Now, I believe the president here. However, we don't have to abide by those rules. So tell us what you really think about the McCabes.
Yeah, when the lies come out and he's basically breaking the law by stating what supposedly was a executive privileged conversation between the acting director, the FBI, and the president in the White House, that's insane. That's just like Comey making up those lies. So maybe they gave, maybe in this grand jury indictment, they gave Andrew McCabe immunity. Why else would he be coming out making up bigger lies? But if he said these things during the grand jury indictment, that this happened, I have my notes, which are probably all lies, that actually could be the basis for giving him immunity for the very things that he's coming out lying about now. So what he's doing is he's calling the president a liar. He's calling him names. He's saying he said things he didn't say. And basically, he's characterizing the president as absolutely, after $100 million and no connection between Trump and Russia, you have Andrew McCabe basically swearing here that he had a definitive feeling, and he would just inside he knew that Trump was a Russian spy. That's insane. What these lies are, not only are his alibi, but they are worse than what Rat Rodenstein said he was going to do, which is put a wiretap on and go and try to trick the president to get him to say crazy things so then he could use it to convince, which is nuts, would have never happened, Mike Pence and half of the cabinet to vote for
yeah, but think about this.
Amendment.
You've got Rat, he goes home to his wife, Barsoomian, and, they have a little pillow talk. He tells her what's going on, and she's cozy with Hillary. So Hillary knows everything that's going on through Rat.
Oh, absolutely. And they say that there's a firewall between them.
There's no firewall.
Lisa Barsoomian represented the Clintons, I think, 41 times. She represented both Hillary and Bill, as well as his administration, so many times. And she always won. She never, ever, ever, ever lost. Now, isn't that just quite a convenient thing? So the second you get Lisa on your side, Miss Barsoomian, I hope I have you on my side.
But think about that.
Because then I'd win.
Ever went down and is going down with Rat Rodenstein is going directly to Hillary.
Oh, yes.
Through Lisa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no firewall. There's no firewall between these people. There's no firewall between the members of Wilmer Hale law firm where at least Mueller and 5 of his people came from. All of them should have recused themselves because of their conflict of interest, because Wilmer Hale represented Don, one of the Trumps at one point, represented Manafort. No, you can't say that you put up a firewall when you represented these people and you still have their privileged information locked up in your safe. Now, let me just go on with one thing, and that's that Horowitz was supposed to look into these things. There were 5 investigations against Andrew McCabe. They rolled them all into that he didn't have candor 3 times with Horowitz. Horowitz was supposed to be looking for, and now, after what we just heard with what Rosenstein said about what it was James Baker said about Andrew McCabe. Andrew McCabe said about Comey and said about Trump. They're all throwing each other under the bus. But what is this? proof of the politicalization of the FBI and DOJ. You couldn't get a clearer picture or evidence than this. And where is Michael Horowitz? This should have been an indictment, since no indictment was ever brought against Andrew McCabe for his...
Michael Horowitz is an SES operative. He's not going to throw his buddies under.
That is correct. So the politicalization of the FBI and the DOJ, it didn't happen. All we get is Andrew McCabe supposedly not having candor 3 times, and maybe having his hand slapped. We'll see. Oh, and then we have the institutionalized leaks from McCabe, which we have all throughout the Strzok page text messages, right, and emails. What happened with that? Andrew McCabe, you leaked so many times that you literally, in your interview on the television the other day, as part of your alibi, said that you had the right to do so, that it was legal. You actually tried to convince the American public that that when you use your own spokesperson of the FBI, that it's legal, even though that spokesperson may have only given out that information as a leak to someone through an inside contact.
Probably made it legal.
That is anonymous. These are anonymous leaks, and he tried to say he used the spokesperson of the FBI for them. No, we know for a fact he used Devlin Barrett, and that it was institutionalized. That's why Devlin's so famous, because you always gave him the heads up, which were the lies, so that the mainstream media could continue the smear. Because you, Andrew McCabe, you were part of the small group from the beginning. You were coordinating. Remember, you had to coordinate Bill Priestap coordinating the FBI Counterintelligence Division, right? Remember, that's your job. You can't get around it. And then you had to report to Comey everything that happened, because the sensitivity of anything to do with counterintelligence requires all of these very secure measures. And so, Andrew McCabe, you knew everything that Bill Priestap was doing, everything Peter Strzok was doing, and Lisa Page. You knew what the 13 different names that turned into the special counsel. You knew all along. And it's just too bad you wouldn't have told anything about throwing Comey under the bus or anyone else if James Baker, the lawyer, who we predicted would be the first person to be the domino to fall, because he's the lawyer who was the most guilty of all. He had to get his alibi out there, and he had to let them know he knew all of that. So he testified behind closed doors, but in the Congress, but it leaked. And those leaks, now Andrew had to come out and defend himself. Comey had to come out and defend himself. All kinds of people have had to come out and defend themselves. But James Baker, I don't know that he does, but I assume that he will get immunity when the new special counsel is appointed to go after those criminals. So, how about lies? Oh yeah, well, they call it lack of candor for Andrew McCabe. No, Andrew McCabe was lying. Look at the messages between Strzok and Page. Was he part of a cover-up? He's still a part of a cover-up. How about the Hillary emails? He made sure there was no investigation. Hillary was not a person of interest, and that he completely covered up for her. How about Uranium One? Oh my goodness, they're supposed to be looking into Russian collusion. There could be no bigger Russian collusion conspiracy than Uranium One, which Andrew McCabe was in charge of for 10 years, making sure it was covered up. How about a conspiracy against the president? He was there. He was one of the leaders. How about the election campaign fraud with his wife? Well, we know that's true because Hillary gave the money at the same time that Andrew was in charge of multiple investigations in the Clinton Foundation and the email. So here's the last thing I have to say. What else was he guilty of? He is the Russian spy. He protected from Vladimir Putin for Uranium One for 10 years. You can't get a bigger Russian spy than Andrew McCabe.